You were heathen Gentiles. You were without God, without hope. You couldn't find your rear end with both hands in the dark, I think it says in one of the ancient texts.
Right.
But, you know, that's where the Gentile world is from. They were alienated from the commonwealth of Israel. Without God, without hope. The scriptures weren't given to them. We're discussing the two pillars of replacement theology with Dr. Miles Jones. The first pillar being the 3.5-year ministry, which is a fabrication of Eusebius in the 4th century, and the changing of God's holy Sabbath, the day he said to remember and keep it holy, a day that Yeshua kept with absolute sanctity, violating the rules of the Pharisees on the Sabbath day, but never violating the laws of the Almighty. But yet, all of this was violated by the new Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new world order religion of Rome. And so, Miles, tell us about these pillars.
Well, they all come from John 6:4. That's why I recognize, like you did, like Nehemiah did, this is the key to understanding the Gospels and the things that have been done to try and mold it to bow to the doctrine of Rome. And I don't know about you, but I am horrified when I see people messing with the scripture, playing fast and loose with the scripture. I mean, I have a sense of pure horror in me when I do that. And you must, and each denomination, each church will tell you, well, their scripture is inerrant. Well, I have news for you. Only God's truth is inerrant, not man's truth. And that's the way you need to look at the Gospels. You know, if it comes from God, it's his truth. If it doesn't, if it's been inserted, and the wonderful bounty of doing this research is that we can tell what has been inserted, like in John 6:4, for example, and we've been able to come up with more evidence than I thought possible that there was no historical precedent to John 6:4. It was definitely an insertion. It says it is. It's a third-person insertion, and it was wrong. The Greek Gentiles didn't know the Hebrew feast days. They did edit the books of the Bible, and things got changed or put in there that are just wrong. And we can now identify them, which is really, really uplifting. You know, we can find our way to God's truth, and that's what we need to be doing. We need to be recovering the received text of the Bible and identifying things that have been inserted in it. And they're not all bad. I mean, look, open the Bible to John. It says at the top, John. It was not published under that name. And then you have chapter 1. There were no chapter markings. And then you have the little summary, which was not in the original. And then you have the verse markings. They were not in the original. So things have been added, and those are worthwhile. They're valuable. But the idea that nothing has been added to Scripture is simply not true. We know there are.
Well, you have pointed out in your book, and this is really an exhaustive detail, not only historically, but the research that you've done into this in establishing these truths. You point out that there are, in extent, about 5,400 Greek manuscripts. And they don't agree with each other. Every one of them, there are changes.
And the only way that could have happened is if the priests who are copying them changed them. That's the only way it could have happened.
Right. Some of it is by omission. Some is error. Some of it is deliberate.
Yes.
They deliberately inserted these things to go along with their theology. And one thing you don't want to get involved with is Greek pagan theology.
Wow.
As Paul said, at one time you were pagans. You were heathen Gentiles. You were without God, without hope. You couldn't find your rear end with both hands in the dark, I think it says in one of the ancient texts.
Right.
But, that's where the Gentile world is from. They were alienated from the commonwealth of Israel. Without God, without hope. The scriptures weren't given to them until the Israelites brought it to them.
Right. And if you're talking about the Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant of the New Testament, people tend to forget that Yeshua's whole ministry was to the Jews, and he fulfilled that. So he died on the cross that the Jews might be saved. Then he was resurrected. Then he included the Gentiles in the mission. But only then. So, you know, he was dying for the Jews, not to have them persecuted.
So his disciples, don't go into the way of the Gentiles. Don't even go to the Samaritans. Go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
First.
That is your mission. You know, after the resurrection, then go into the whole world.
Right. Then he opened
it up.
The franchise for Gentile believers to come in, and thank Yehovah that he did. And we are grafted into the tree of Abraham equal to anyone else.
Right.
Because of our belief in the Son of Yehovah. That's why it's so horrifying when you see people playing fast and loose with the Bible to justify creating a Greek church. I mean, just tick off the 10 Commandments and see which ones they didn't break. I mean, you know, it says you shall not take the name of God in vain. In Hebrew, that's shov, which means to nothing. You shall not take the name of God to nothing. And what have they done? Erased it. Now, by now, find me a modern day Bible that has the name of God in it. I hope there is one, but I don't frankly know what they are. So it was completely taken out. Honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Gone because of John 6:4. You can see on the chart, the Passover was moved up a couple of years where you had Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, that is the Good Friday, Easter Sunday, Lord's Day doctrine right there in a nutshell. That's what they used to sanctify, changing the day of worship from the Sabbath day to the Lord's Day, which is the first day of the week, Sunday. So, and that's just an abomination. It just burns to see people so obviously, you know, playing with the Bible to create their own doctrine, change the name of God. They needed a Greek God, a Greek Jesus, and you do have a Greek Jesus that by the time of the Gospels, by the time of Mark, you have an archetype of the Greek Jesus who rejects Torah is now overwhelming the Hebrew Yeshua who upholds Torah. So you really have a dichotomy between the Hebrew archetype and the Greek archetype. It is the same person, but the way they are perceived in the Hebrew and the Greek Gospels are sometimes diametrically opposed. You know, if you take the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition, which was created to crush the resurgent Messianic church, huge numbers, 250,000 Jews converted. So you had their own bishops, their own priests, their own churches, but they were trying to crush that. So you have these Messianic believers who literally died before giving up their faith. They were very brave. Many of them absolutely refused to recant. But then on the other side, you have Roman priests who fervently believe it is their duty to torture and kill these fellow believers because they have a wrong doctrine. And that wrong doctrine is basically
I missed that instruction from Yeshua.
Yeah. But you have, obviously, these two people are operating from different archetypes. How do you take any solace that this is the same person when you got a manuscript tradition in Greek and a manuscript in Greek and Latin and one in Hebrew, and they're telling totally different stories here? You know, and these people were upholding their belief in the Hebrew Messiah, and they were being crucified for it. And then the other archetype is that of the Roman priests who felt it was their duty to torture and kill fellow believers, you know, as a question of doctrinal purity. You know, they're Judaizers. Absolutely, they had the Hebrew Gospels.
Yeah, that terminology, that's the incendiary point, is it not?
Yeah.
You know, if they're keeping the feasts, if they're keeping the Sabbath, if they're following the commandments of God,
if they're keeping the word in Hebrew,
yeah, then they're Judaizers.
Yes.
Whenever you hear someone use the term Judaizer people, you need to understand these people are completely removed from the Scripture. They're pagans. They have a paganized religion. They have a paganized Jesus.
The people that are condemning them, right?
Right. Yeah, and so the people that are keeping what Yeshua did and said in obeying the Torah, as he said, do what Moses said to do.
Yes.
Don't follow the Takanot and Maasim of the Pharisees.
Right.
Don't follow their rules and regulations that they made up. And what have we, in Christianity, we've ended up with the rules and regulations of a different brand of Pharisees, and no one's obeying Moses. Shalom, Torah fans. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Tap the subscription button and the bell icon. And I promise to update weekly with in-depth biblical research. Be sure to download the new michaelrood.tv app for both mobile and home devices for even more commercial-free content.